I don't wanna go there. We should never go there. Why you wanna go there? I guess I gotta go there. You're hearing rumors about me and you can't stomach the thought. So please, babe, so please don't judge me. I won't judge you, 'cause it can get ugly.
Shalom, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday night open forum with the United States of America Republic. And today is January 25th in the year 2017. We are going to have a guest speaker tonight who's going to go into a different topic for us, and he's our Attorney General, Charles Bay. And before we bring Brother Charles Bay on the line, we're going to go ahead and open up with Brother Ross Whitty Bay Jr., who can provide us with a little bit of the phone etiquette. So let me go ahead and unmute him so that we can provide phone etiquette to our callers here. Islam, Brother Ross, you have the floor.
Islam. And thank you, Sister Moderator. First, I want to rise and give honor and to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for without him, we would not be on this path, in this trail, and provided the script to pull ourselves out of the turmoil that we're in. And I want to give perfect praise to Allah, because he makes all of us, makes everything and all of us possible to do anything and everything that we need to do. Having said that, I want to say, brothers and sisters, out of one of our foundational standards that we stand on, which is love, our free national principles and standards, love is the number one. We need to have love and for all of our fellow brothers and sisters, for humanity in general. And we need to stand on that. So when we're dealing with each other and we're communicating with each other, we want to make sure that we give respect to one another by allowing each other to communicate. Tonight is going to be a very, very special communique that we're going to have on this line. For all of our brothers and sisters that are spiritual and do not have an understanding of not-for-profit, non-for-profit, our brother tonight is getting ready to bring it. He has prepared very well for it. I know his spirit. I know his vibration. So I'm hoping and praying that everybody on this line is listening. So having said that, I would hope that you would please monitor your lines, your phones, to make sure this call is very clear, because the topic, I'm not even going to mention it. I'm going to let him mention the topic tonight that you're going to be hearing tonight on this line. So we'll get an overstanding, because this call, just like the rest of them, are going to go on wherever the president puts them on to be monitored by the communities as well as the international community. So please, let's make sure we have a good copy, good clarity in this by being very responsible by muting our phones, background noises, anything of that nature. Also, when we're communicating, as you well know, he's going to be taking a longer time from what I understand from our normal teachings. So even if that's the case, even though that's the case, you still have to get permission, not permission, but be recognized by the moderator, which is Sister Colonna L. You say Islam, and once you're done speaking, then you yield the floor. And once you yield the floor, then another brother or sister is able to speak. If you have a point of interest on that thought process and that person is communicating on, then you're going to say point of interest, and then you're going to still be recognized by the moderator, and then she's going to give you the floor, and then you speak, and then you come back and yield the floor again. If everybody's okay with that and everybody got an understanding, then I'm going to move forward and yield this floor back to the sister moderator so we can hear our brothers speak on this much-needed topic. I yield the floor back to the sister moderator, Sister Colonna L. Islam.
Islam, and thank you, Secretary of State. Before we open up the floor tonight for our topic and the special guest speaker, I just wanted to open it up to anyone who may have any issues or any questions or comments that they may have from a previous conversation or anything that we've discussed within USAR. So feel free. You can take a moment to do so.
I just want Islam, Sister Moderator.
Yes. Islam?
Just quickly, I just wanted to say off cuss. No, I'll table that for a minute because it'll be with the recording. I don't want that. So anyway, it was just some question I was going to ask, but I yield the floor back.
All right, sounds good. Okay, well, let me just make sure that our guest speaker, Charles Bay, can unmute himself. And if he can do so right now, then I know that he has control of his phone. All right, perfect. Islam, Brother Charles Bay.
Islam, Sister Kalona.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and yield the floor to you now. So you have the floor, and we have our presentation up. So it's all yours.
All right. If you can go into full screen and advance to slide number 3. And because you have controls, I'll just simply ask to go forward each slide.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Praise Allah. Honors to Allah, His Prophet, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, and the last who was sent to redeem us and rescue us from our own ways, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It should be established that for tonight's presentation and at all times, we should never speak radically against the U.S. banner, nor against the Church, Islam. Because we're Moorish Americans for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's likely that excerpts of, or this entire presentation may be placed on social media. So for those who view it, whether European or Asiatic, and they scoff at it or ridicule it, and ask, well, where do I derive my power and authority? The answer to them is that I derive my power and authority from my state government as national and have the right to self-determination. The title of the presentation is Illinois State Home Rule Authority as defined by Illinois state legislation, and it's brought to us by the United States of America Republic, Department of Justice, and the office where I actually hold a position as Attorney General. Next. Right, before we really delve into the presentation, I wanted to read an excerpt from an article that was authored by Noble Drew Ali, titled A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations. And I should cite the Moorish literature. It could also be found in the Moorish Guide, both the Moorish literature and the Moorish Guide, according to Chicago and Home Office, are to be trusted for their material. However, the oral statements less so because it's sort of indirect compilation of someone or others who heard the Prophet comments. And so the excerpt reads, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Without your national citizenship by name and principle, you have no true wealth. And so these excerpts from this particular article, if you do have it, I recommend pulling it out and just kind of going over it. And if you don't have it, I recommend getting it so that you can gain a better understanding of truly what our benefactor intended for us as members of the temple and national citizens of a state government. And I should mention, in the image on the left, Drew Ali is sitting with a robe over his business attire. And I just thought to stimulate ideas with the question, could this be a symbology of wrapping nationality with divinity for its protection. And so as we move forward through these slides, I want you to remember these two excerpts from this article and place it in perspective to Illinois State Home Rule Authority. Next. This presentation contains approximately 7 sections, starting with a problem statement, the purpose of the study, the research questions, introduction. In the research findings, I'll share the information that I collected, and I'll also make conclusions based upon the information that I'm sharing, and close out with acknowledgments, and then open the floor for contributions, comments, and questions. Next. So the problem statement is Moorish Americans in name have, unfortunately, erroneously identified Moorish Science Temple of America, which was lawfully incorporated and chartered in Illinois State as a state government in the sense of international law. I suspect that these notions have existed since the Prophet's passing. This may result from misinformation that may have been perpetuated by members, by their leaders throughout the decades since the passing of Drew Ali. Also, it could be attributed to deliberate attempts from outsiders to render the divine and national movement static and without movement. And then thirdly, it could be, and in the latter case, directly attributed to the lack of comprehension of the type of body politic 805 Illinois Compiled Statutes 110 has designated for societies who incorporate under the Illinois Compiled Statutes of Illinois State per Illinois State Constitution, constitutional legislative provisions. Let's see, I became aware of my Moorish American nationality and emerged into the Moorish American Divine and National Movement in 2013 through a temple in Baltimore. And for the year that I studied there, no one simply knew that the 805's Illinois Compiled Statutes 110 existed. And they all referred to the rare cover of the Quran Questionnaire for Moorish Americans as our deed. Though it may be a facsimile of the charter, in many cases across the nation it has been altered and changed. And so as a result, not many people know that the 805s exist, or better yet, how the Prophet lawfully incorporated and became a chartered organization. Next. And so I mentioned the 3 areas of concern associated with the problem statement. However, really what truly drove me to create this presentation was a series of correspondences between myself and my former mentor that reached a boiling point. And it started with this particular email. I've redacted several areas to, protect anyone from ridicule or shamefulness based upon the information that was shared. And so this email was sent to approximately 35 people, which I was part of, on January 15th. And it originated from a sheikh in the Moorish Science Temple of America. It reads, "The great meeting is on. in the New York Territory. Every year in July, on the 10th through the 14th, is the National Convention Assembly Week, the 28th week. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he needed strong-minded men and women. Well, that's who cast their free national ballot in that territory. Welcome home. Your territory is now partial of the whole said body politic. Once the proper documentation is delivered to the proper agency, the Moorish state becomes a part of the two-state system. The United Nations are signing the treaty today. The old-time religion is back. The only territories working with us are the ones on the National Convention Assembly / calendar NCAC. Who's next? And it's signed Peace. Again, this is from my former mentor, and his title is Sheikh, in the name of and the behalf of Moorish Science Temple of America. And he included an attachment. So I replied and asked my former mentor if the Moorish Science Temple of America is under Home Rule Authority. And I don't even want to share his reply because it's so convoluted, so remote from truly what Drew Ali has intended for the Moorish Science Temple of America, that it serves as yet another example of what I deem misinformation. And this is really damaging to a lot of the upcoming and succeeding generations of Moorish Americans that are seeking light, that are seeking truth, to gain full comprehension of what Noble Drew Ali has intended for us. So what I decided to do was visit the United Nations website to see if, in fact, the United Nations is voting in a two-state system that involves the Moorish Science Temple of America. Next. So I went to the United Nations, and thank you. The United Nations has statutes of treaties, and if you could, Sister Colonna, could you go up before we go down? And it serves as, this website serves as the collections of treaties and all the notifications by the Secretary General of the United Nations regarding all the treaties that have been signed. All right, could you go down, Sister Colonna? So it has approximately 6 columns starting from the right. It has the date of issuance, the CN number, the participant that's involved in the treaty, the actions, and the treaty reference number. So I checked the treaty date on the 15th that I received this email. I checked on the following day, but I decided that I would wait until Monday of this week to collect as many screenshots as possible to show that from the 15th up until the 20th, there wasn't any so-called treaties signed on the behalf of the Moorish Science Temple of America as a participant for two-state membership. So as we can see in the far left column, we have their nomenclature for the UN is 20/01/the year. So we have the date, the month, and then the year. As you can see from the very top to the bottom, from the most recent, the 20th, to the 17th that there was no Moorish Science Temple of America listed under the participant column that involved any actions associated with state or two-state system. So I decided to do further analysis of this. Next. Could you enlarge the screen, please, Kelowna? So what I decided to do was look between the dates of the 3rd day of January of this year to the 17th day of January of this year. Could you go down, Sister Kelowna? So, and could you move across to the right? Okay, thanks. So I started with the second page at the bottom. And again, we're looking at the far left column, the dates of the 13th of the month of January 2017 to the 11th day of the month of January 2017. Again, no Moorish Science Temple of America listed in the participating or participant column or any action associated with that. Could you move the screen to the left, Sister Kelowna? So I decided to look more closely at days, 2 days prior to the 15th. So that highlighted row, the 13th day of January, right here, I placed my cursor there, and then that little box came up in the lower right-hand corner, which reads International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is for Sao Tome and Principe. This is not for Moorish Science Temple of America. And all of the remaining actions for that particular date that's listed above it are for those particular participants, not Moorish Science Temple of America. Next. Again, the dates between the 3rd day of January through the 17th day of January. Could you go down, Kelowna? So let's start at the bottom. So this is the first page, whereas the previous slide was the second page of all the treaties between the dates that I requested. So at the bottom of the page in the far left-hand column, the date again is the 13th day of January. And above that, the next row up is the 16th day of January 2017. So any activity, according to the email that I received regarding the UN voting on a treaty that involves Moorish Science Temple of America, should be between those two solid arrows on January 15th, 2017. Again, there's no action that occurred after the 13th and before the 16th. So, is it misinformation? I don't know. I leave it for others to determine. But I decided that, well, I should look at the days after the 15th that I received this email alleging that the UN is voting on a two-state system for the Moorish Science Temple of America. So I hovered over the 16th day of January 2017 to determine exactly what sort of activity the participant or formality is involved in. The activity is a protocol and strategic environmental assessment to the Convention on Environmental Impact in Transboundary Contexts. And so the 3 rows above that are associated with all activity that was initiated on the very first entry of the 16th day of January 2017, ending right there. So no Moorish Science Temple of America, no signing of treaty for two-party state. Again, is this misinformation? I leave it for others to decide. So having determined that the information that I received in the email wasn't factual, based upon the UN depository of their treaty statuses, I decided to do some more research. Next. I looked at again, the dates between the 3rd day of January through the 17th. I looked at the 17th activity. And so this is 2 days after the alleged voting should have occurred for Moorish Science Temple of America in a two-state system. So the participant is Peru, and the activity for this particular treaty, could you move it to the far left, sister? Again, the participant that's involved in this is Peru. And the activity for this participant relative to treaty is an agreement on the privileges and immunities of the International Criminal Court as it relates to Peru, not Moorish Science Temple of America. Could you move the slide to the right, sister? So again, if there was any voting that occurred as alleged in that email that I received, making bold statements of a two-party system and the UN's voting on it, it should have occurred between the 16th and the 13th at the lower left-hand corner of our screen where the dashed arrow is located. It should have occurred right in there on the 15th, but no activity during the 15th, no activity before or after the 15th related to Moorish Science Temple of America receiving a treaty for a two-state system. Next. All right, so having done that research, I decided that, well, if there are Moors and there are fractions of Moors and there are groups of Moors that exist that are erroneously identifying the Moorish Science Temple of America as a state system, perhaps I should know exactly what Moorish Science Temple of America is. And so I decided to examine what level of government a lawfully chartered and incorporated body politic is as a corporation in Illinois State, as defined by Illinois State Constitution and 805 ILCS 110. And the questions I wanted to ask myself is a state government, is Moorish Science Temple of America, is it a state government with a national constitution, or is it another type of government as determined by body politic designation under Illinois State Constitution and the 805 ILCS? I truly want to know, and I think everyone should know, what type of body politic is Moorish Science Temple of America? Because our brothers and sisters who are not following Dror Ali closely, not studying the law closely, or making a lot of bold claims, are going into court being citizens in the state where Dror Ali found all of us and making false claims that causes dishonor to a nation of a people, that I'm sure causes the Europeans to make mockery of us. And a lot of this information that they share continues to confuse Moorish Americans that are interested in learning their nationality and divine creed. Next. So before I continue, in the lower right-hand corner on the slides are the numbers. So at the end, when the presentation has opened for contributions, comments, and questions, you know, it would be good if you can identify the slide number now or throughout the course of the presentation, and then write notes so that we can, during the end of the presentation, revisit the specific slide that you're interested in. So, body politic. A lot of Moors, myself included, as early as 2013, didn't know how Dror Ali lawfully chartered and incorporated. It wasn't until after I left the initial temple where I learned about my nationality, or learned that Moorish American is my nationality, my free national name, and learned about my divine creed. It wasn't until after I left that temple that I began to research what Dror Ali truly did in terms of being a lawfully chartered and incorporated entity. And he did it by way of, he first incorporated in the state, and then he incorporated in the county. And so at the county level, for business organizations, he incorporated under 805 ILCS 110 under the Religious Corporation Act. And so I didn't know what Moorish Science Temple of America was, because I asked my Grand Sheikh at the time, and he couldn't tell me. He just said it was a government, and I said, well, could you prove it to me? Could you show me in law what it is? And he couldn't show me. So after I left his temple, I started researching, and I went to the Illinois General Assembly website, and this is what I started studying. Could you increase the slide, Sister Kalina? Okay. And move it to our right. Yep. Move it to the right more, please.
Unfortunately, it won't go any further to the right.
Okay. Could you decrease it then slightly so that the information on the left can be visible?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so a few slides from now, I'll discuss what Dror Ali did relative to using the Religious Corporation Act, but I wanted to show everyone why I'm starting from the basis that what type of body politic Moorish Science Temple of America is. It's because under the Religious Corporation Act, once our founder completed his filings, that particular filing became a body politic, meaning the Moorish Science Temple of America, according to the Religious Corporation Act, as seen in this screen image that I captured, where it reads, in the underline, shall and remain a body politic and corporate. And so according to Black's Law 4th edition, the body politic or corporate, as it reads, is a social compact by which the whole people covenants with each citizen and each citizen with the whole people, that all shall be governed by certain laws for the common good, a term applied to corporations, state or nation or public association, Utah State Building Commission, for use and benefit of Mountain State Supply Company versus Great American Indemnity Corporation. So, according to this definition, a body politic based upon the Religious Corporation Act, once a filing is done, can be a social compact by which the whole people covenant with each citizen and each citizen with the whole people. It could be a state or a nation or a public association. It could be any of those things, right? According to the definition of Black's Law, notwithstanding what the state constitutional legislative provisions define as a corporation under the 805 ILCS. Next. So here is an image of a 10105905 that is dearly known to us all. I visited Cook County in 2014, as I mentioned, after I left the initial temple, where I learned about my Free National Name and Divine Creed. And I took a trip to Cook County because I wanted to find that facsimile of the rare cover on the Quran questionnaire for Moorish Americans. And I spoke to an Asiatic who was kind of being managed by a female European, and I approached him and I asked for a copy, a certified copy of 10105905, and he looked at me and he looked at the European and then he looked back at me and then he said, "Oh, you mean your charter?" And I repeated the same question again, and he repeated his statement. And then I looked at the European woman, and she nodded her head in affirmation, and she says, "Yes, your charter." And then I looked back at him, and I said, "Yeah, I'd like a certified copy of the charter." So he gave me a certified copy of the charter. As you can see, if you look at your rare cover of a Quran questionnaire for Moorish Americans, it may be a facsimile, but it is not precisely what the lawfully incorporated charter looks like. And the reason you would know that it's a lawfully chartered and a certified copy of the lawfully chartered incorporated charter is that when you obtain a certified copy from Cook County, they typically stamp it. And there's the image on the right, which is the reverse side of the front copy. So it's a Cook County stamp. It identifies the Cook County number. It says a recorder of deeds, and there's a signature. So this is a certified copy. So could you decrease that? Perfect. Thanks. And go down. So let's consult with, as Moorish Americans, let's consult with our holy book, the one that was left to us by Noble Drew Ali, that if we follow the principles of it, it will keep our house in order. That is the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's chapter 48, number 4. It reads, and this is again an excerpt from our holy book. So, irrespective of what Moorish Americans say Moorish Science Temple of America is, let's consult with the book that the Prophet gave us for holy instructions. It reads, "The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States." So the Prophet has identified Moorish Science Temple of America as a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization, not a state government. He has referred to it as an organization. Next. So having consulted with this book, having looked at the 805 ILCS 110, I still kept the question in my mind, what type of body politic is Moorish Science Temple of America? The Prophet has identified it as an organization, the Religious Corporation Act. If you utilize it and file according to its template in substantial form, can be considered a body politic and is and should remain a body politic. So I developed a hypothesis, and my hypothesis was Moorish Science Temple of America is a state or national government per Illinois state constitutional legislation. And my null hypothesis, which is Moorish Science Temple of America is not a state government or a national government per Illinois state constitutional legislation. And to prove or disprove my hypothesis or my null hypothesis, I decided to research the Illinois state constitution. I also decided to consult with the 805 ILCS 110 and review peer-reviewed law cases that I obtained from the Supreme Court of Illinois State. Next. Again, moving forward, I want to reiterate that in our Holy Quran of the MST of A, the Prophet has identified in chapter 48, number 4, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. An organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States. This particular copy of Quran that I have originated from Home Office, and in some cases when you encounter Moors on social media or just in passing in life, when you speak with them, they may use the words Home Office, Home Rule, or Home Rule Authority. So we should always keep those phrases in our mind as we go through this presentation. Next. Decided to consult with, in addition to the Holy Quran of the MST of A and the divine warning for the nations from the Prophet, I also decided to consult with a second article authored by Drew Ali. It's entitled Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. Sister, if you could increase the screen. Okay, thanks. All right, it reads, in connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit you a brief statement of our organization. We organized as Moorish Temple of Science in the year of 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois. November 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America. May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in Cook County Recorder's Office in Illinois. So this excerpt from this particular article, in it the prophet identifies repeatedly the Moorish Science Temple of America is an organization, and he identifies the constituencies as members, and in addition he identifies its primary purpose being largely religious, as a religious organization. Next. And so given that in the prophet's literature, the prophet has repeatedly identified Moorish Science Temple of America as an organization. However, if you read through other of his articles, particularly the first excerpt of his article, The Divine Warning for All Nations from the Prophet, where he identifies the citizens of all free national governments according to their national constitution, or of all one family being one free national name, I included this particular slide that was examined and evaluated, and notes were made by Cannon Bay. And in it, it reads, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have the power to redeem your race, because you will know who you are and your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now and need, every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is a field open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish national movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. This is what was meant when it is said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things, and all these things would be added unto you, by the prophet. So clearly the prophet, if you read through this quickly, you probably wouldn't see it as many of us have missed, but thankfully others like Cannon Bay were able to examine it more closely and make the distinction, and have drawn the conclusion that the divine and national movement, although they're inextricably linked, at certain instances they overlap, yet the religious corporation that is Moorish Science Temple of America is purely religious and is on the divine side, and the state that we all need is on the national side. Next. So before moving forward, I wanted to look closely at what organization is. I mean, perhaps I can find, I was thinking maybe organization is referring to a state government. I don't know. So I looked at the 4th edition which did not have the term organization in it, but it had organized county, which reads, a county which has its lawful officers, legal machinery, and means for carrying out the powers and performing the duties pertaining to it as a quasi-municipal corporation. So because the Black's Law 4th lacked organization, I went to a more recent version of Black's Law in search of what organization is. I think this is Black's Law 6th edition, yep. And organization, the term organization and definition was found here, and it reads, a term is used in commercial law, includes a corporation, government, or governmental subdivision or agency, business trust, estate, trust, partnership, or organization, two or more persons having a joint or common interest, or any other legal or commercial entity. And I looked at organized county, and it was similar to the definition that I found in Black's Law 4th edition, but I'll read it. It reads, a county which has its lawful officers, legal machinery, and means for carrying out the powers and performing the duties pertaining to it as a quasi-municipal corporation. Okay, next. All right, I included this slide because, as shocking and surprising as it may sound, I know many Moors that identify this document, which is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws. They actually identify this document as a lawful charter. It just puzzles me. I don't know why. I've not gotten any explanation. But what I did receive in 2014 was verification from Cook County that 10105905 is our lawful charter. So if we're to follow the instructions from the Prophet in the Holy Quran of the MST of A, Chapter 48, number 4, which identifies, where he identifies the Moorish Science Temple of America as being a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization, then I could not refer to this document as a lawful, chartered, and incorporated organizational charter. It's simply what it says it is. It's the Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws. I can't get it from Cook County because it's not filed according to 805 ILCS Section 35, which we'll discuss in a few slides. However, in addition to including it here for the purpose of revealing that Moors are identifying this as a lawful charter, also to include an excerpt from Act 6, which reads, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live. So I've shared just excerpts from Act 6 for those of you that would want a full and complete reading of that. I recommend consulting with the Divine Constitution and Bylaws to get an understanding. But here, clearly, Jurali, yet again, has identified the constituents who join Moorish Science Temple of America as members, not citizens, and according to the article that he authored, because Moorish Science Temple of America is largely religious, they are teaching their people their nationality and their divine creed. So teaching is a very key term because according to international standards that's established by the International Assembly, States confer nationality. Okay? Here, the Prophet has identified Moorish Temple of America to be charged with teaching, not conferring nationality. And if you look in the lower left corner of the screen, again, this document is originating from Home Office. And again, when you speak with some Moors, they all alternately refer to Home Office as Home Rule. And you can see that there's a seal in the lower right corner of the document showing that it's coming from a body of Moors in Chicago. This happens to have been given to me by Supreme Grand Sheikh Bailey L. Yeah, that's as much I'll say about that. All right, next slide. All right, again, here is a scanned copy of the Lawfully Chartered and Incorporated Organizational Charter, front and rear, with the seal and the stamp from Cook County. So this is certifiably a copy of whatever Drew Ali filed to become a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. So it can't be the divine constitution and bylaws, as some Moors are saying. Next. All right, so to prove or illustrate that 10105905 was filed, I've shown you a certified copy of it with the stamp, but I want to now show everyone the Illinois compiled statutes for the Religious Corporation Act that Drew Ali used. Could you increase this, please, and just move it to the right? All right. So, okay, stop right there. Could you go back up? All right, that's fine, right there. So this, if you could see right under the circled phrase business organization, you see section 0.01 and short title. Short title is key. So short title, which I researched in the past, I discovered that short title is, among other things, a means to include your articles of incorporation, but not necessarily identify them, for instance, starting with Article 1 as Article 1 to Article Infinity or Article N. So in this case, Drew Ali utilized this particular template that's found in Section 36 to incorporate his lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. But I wanted to read Section 35. It reads, any church, congregation, or society formed for the purposes of religious worship may become incorporated in the manner following by electing or appointing according to its usage or customs at any meeting held for the purposes two or more of its members or trustees, wardens, vestrymen, or such other officers whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees, as shall be agreeable to the usages and society, and may adopt a corporate name. And upon the filing of the affidavit, as hereinafter provided, it shall be and remain a body politic and corporate by the names so adopted. Could you go down, Sister Kalina? That's the bottom of it?
Yeah, and then we go over.
Okay, cool. So let's go back down. So as you can see, Moors, the beginning, if you have a copy of the lawfully chartered and incorporated organizational charter, 10105905, you could pull it out now. And if you have access to the internet, you can go on the 805 ILCS and just put the charter aside adjacent to your screen and start with section 36, and you can read through it and see where Drew Ali made the necessary insertions according to the template that's seen in section 36. So it reads, the chairman or secretary of such meeting shall, as soon as may be after such meeting, make and file in the office of the recorder in the county in which such congregation, church, or society is organized, which shall be recorded by such recorder, an affidavit substantially in the following form. So he used the template that I'm going to show you in section 36, substantially in its form, to create 10105905 and file it, and then therefore become the Moorish Science Temple of America, which he himself in our holy book has identified as an organization. Okay, could you move the screen to the left, Sister Kaluna? So that's as far left as it goes. Yeah, you may have to decrease it. All right. So here's a continuation of it. It reads, and it includes the ellipsis. It should be 3 dots, but it just means continuation or whatever you're going to add there. I, blank. In the case of 10105905, Drew Ali inserted Noble Drew Ali, do solemnly swear that at a meeting of the members of, here insert the name of a church, congregation, church, society, or congregation, as known before incorporation, held at, insert the place of meeting, in the county of, you got to insert the county that you're meeting, and the state of Illinois, and on, insert the date, for the purpose, the following persons were elected or appointed, here insert their names, trustees, the prophet struck out trustees and wrote in sheiks, or wardens, vestrymen, or officers by whatever name they choose to adopt, with powers and duties similar to trustees, according to the rules and usages of such church, society, congregation, and the church, society, or congregation adopted as its corporate name. And at the meeting, this affiant acted as chairman or secretary, as the case may be, subscribed and sworn to before me. So as you can see, Morris, this is a template of what Drew Ali used to file in the county for religious purposes only, which he has identified as our organization in our Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Next. All right, so on this screen, I'm just showing you the template that the 805 ILC offers in section 36, which everyone that is Moorish American should know now, but I'm afraid that many don't. And I'm showing you on the right of it a copy of 10105905. So the Prophet used section 36 in its substantial form to create the Moorish Science Temple of America as a religious corporation that is largely religious, that has members that are teaching their members their nationality and their divine creed. Okay? Next. So it's clear in my mind that based upon what Drew Ali has indicated in his surviving literature and what the 805 has suggested in its section is that it's a religious corporation. So I wanted to look more closely now at the provisions in the state of Illinois that allows corporations. Next. Next. Okay, could you increase this? All right, so I went to Illinois Digital Archives, okay, from Illinois State Library. The Secretary of State there is Mr. Jesse White. Could you go down and then to the left where the literature is? Yep. Okay. So one thing that I discovered more as well researching this is that there were 4 constitutions for the state of Illinois. And I'm just going to read through this. All right. It reads, the first Constitution of the state of Illinois, 1818, was compiled mainly with provisions taken from the Constitution of Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. It was adopted by the delegates to the convention, but never submitted to the people of Illinois. The first Constitution put virtually unlimited power in the hands of the legislator while effectively keeping it away from the people. In 1847, with an increase in the population, a movement began for calling a convention to alter, amend, and revise the Constitution of 1818. The resulting Constitution of 1848 was an improvement over the previous one, but still provided the susceptible to abuses that encouraged greed of all kinds, which caused the legislature to waste much time and attention to the detriment of the public interests. The legislature of 1859 submitted a proposal to hold a 3rd constitutional convention to a vote of the people. The proposal was endorsed in the election of 1860, and the convention convened in Springfield on January 7, 1862. According to the law, the delegates to the convention were required to take an oath to support the state constitution before starting the business of the convention. Unfortunately, the majority of the delegates not only refused to do this, but they assumed powers such as the right to interfere with military affairs, powers they did not have. This convention was soon termed a high-rolling convention, to the disgust of the people, and their work was brought into disrepute. Once the delegates became aware of that convention, once the delegates became aware that that convention was being severely criticized, they began to make a great effort to create a constitution acceptable to the people. The Constitution was overwhelmingly defeated in popular vote, and matters left as they were until after the war. Once the war was over, the Reconstruction began. Calls again began to be made for the changes to 1848 Constitution. The need for constitutional changes was primarily based on the continuing growth in both population and economic complexities of Illinois. Because of the widespread belief that changes in the state constitution would affect improvements in the performance of Illinois state government, the Constitution of 1870 was approved by a large majority and went into effect on August 8, 1870. Until 1970, Illinois had 5 state conventions for the purposes of creating a state constitution. Of these, the 1818, 1847, 1869-70 conventions adopted constitutions that went into effect, while the proposed constitution framed by the conventions of 1862 and 1922 were rejected. Illinois' government basically remained static from 1870 to 1970. The Sixth Constitutional Convention in 1970 produced a new constitution which was approved by voters on December 15, 1970. Next. Okay, so what we learned from the Illinois State Digital Archives of Jesse White, the Secretary of State of Illinois, is that there were 5 conventions, and during that time there were 4 constitutions that were approved, the one of 1818, 1847, 1869-70, and 1970, and there were 2 that were rejected, 1862 and 1922. So between 1870 and 1970, the one constitution that were used to govern and regulate society in all manner was the 1870. So when Drew Ali incorporated in the state in 1926, he did so under the Constitution of 1870. And subsequently, when he met the legal requirements of the Secretary of State in 1928 and filed his Religious Corporation Act, it too, through the Illinois compiled statute, it too was under the legislative provisions of the Constitution of 1870. So now I wanted to look more closely at the 1870 Constitution to gain further insight onto sort of, is Moorish Science Temple of America, through its filing, a state government based upon legislative provisions of Illinois State Constitution of 1870? Because it was in effect for 100 years until 1970. So during the early 20th century, it's what governed and regulated all corporations within the state of Illinois. Next. Again, I used this particular slide so that Moors, again, you can see that Drew Ali is identifying Moorish Science Temple of America as an organization under the laws of the state of Illinois via 1926, and he met the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois in 1928 to incorporate lawfully the Moorish Science Temple of America. And again, he has identified the objective of the organization as largely being religious. Next. So we're looking at the Illinois State Constitution, next, of 1870. So again, I went to Illinois State website and I looked at the Illinois State Constitution, which was adopted and ratified in 1870, and I looked at the table of contents. What I was looking for, number one, is state governments or anything that would allude to state government through corporations. So what I found was corporations in Article 11 and counties in Article 10. So can we go to the next slide? So for corporations, Sister Colonna, if you exit the full screen and you go to the notes section below the slide, you can get the link on the left. No, actually, hold on. Yeah, get the link on the red, I'm sorry.
On the right?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So you would paste that into a search engine, and
can you see what I've shared here?
Yeah, the slide presentation's still on the screen.
Okay, so we need to actually make it.
You can minimize it, and then, I don't know.
Did that work? Can you see the website now?
No, I'm still looking at the slide presentation.
Let's see, select all. Okay, one moment.
Oh, there we go. So that information was brought up after you. That's the link that you pasted in the URL?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Could you go back to the slide presentation and get the link on the left? Yeah, that one. Copy that and paste it.
Islam, point of interest.
Islam more?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please make the screens bigger so we can see the words for those that are following along on screenshot for us? That would be very much appreciated. I yield the floor back. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. The slide won't increase any more than I have, but the internet will. Is that big enough? Is that good, Charles Wayne?
Yeah, that's fine. If you could you, using this screen, could you back screen to the previous page that was there? Yep. Okay, in the search engine box there where the cursor is flashing, could you type in Illinois Constitution, 1870? $18.70.
18. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. All right. Yeah, could you click on right there? Yep. This should allow us to go to the screen. Okay. All right, so to assist you with this, Sister Colonna, do you see right above the word Constitution, you can actually increase and decrease to the left where that yellow bar is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can click on that yellow bar to decrease the size, and then for now, just decrease it in half, right? And then hover your cursor over the page, and then you can actually click on it and move the page up and down. Yeah, you could do that there. All right, cool. But what we want to do is go straight to page 42. So go to the far right and then scroll down and click on page 42. And you could do the same here, just not decrease it in half, but maybe 3/4, or just scroll down. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, scroll down.
Yeah, we're going to go down to where the corporation section begins. So I decided to start with corporations because I wanted to gain a better understanding of what type of power provisionally through Illinois State Constitution corporations have. So could you, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 more lines below this, if there is. Okay, no. So it starts by reading, no corporation shall be created by special laws or its charter extended, changed, or amended except those for charitable, educational, penal, and reformatory purposes, which are, you can go to page 43 by either clicking on it. Yep. Shall be to be and remain under the patronage and control of the state, but the General Assembly shall provide by general laws for the organization of all corporations hereinafter to be created, all existing charters or grants, or special or exclusive privileges under which organization shall not have taken place, or which shall not have been in corporation within 10 days from the time this Constitution takes effect, shall thereafter have no validity or effect whatever. Could you go down? Right. The General Assembly shall provide by law that in all elections for directors and managers of incorporated companies, every stockholder shall have the right to vote in person or by proxy for numbers of shares or stocks owned by him for as many persons as there are directors or managers to be elected, or to accumulate said shares and give one candidate as many votes as the number of directors multiplied by the numbers of his shares of stock shall equal, or distribute them on same principle among as many candidates as he shall think fit, and such directors or managers shall not be elected. Go down. No law shall be passed by the General Assembly granting the right to construct and operate a street railroad within any city, town, or incorporated village without requiring the consent of the local authorities having the control of the street or the highway proposed to be occupied by such street railroad. So the next section is on banks for the corporation, and then it goes into other sections, but this is essentially allowing corporations to have all of these various elements for their governance. And if you go back up slightly, maybe 5 lines, yeah, keep going up, you'll see here where they're referring to cities, towns, or incorporated villages. So I wanted to get a sense if corporations under the state provisions of 1870 can be considered state in addition to city, towns, and incorporated villages. So I went to the county section. Sister Colonna, if you can go back to the slide presentation and advance one slide. So I wanted to look at the county section, which is on page 38. So let's go back to page 38 of the URL. And it's further down, I believe. Okay, stop right there. So the Article 10 of the 1870 Constitution, under corporations, under counties, there's approximately 13 sections. And so I wanted to focus mostly on the formation of new counties and divisions of any county, because it's clearly not talking about states here. It's actually discussing counties. And when we review 1970 Constitution of Illinois, you'll get a chance to see what they revised in Articles 10 and 11, and they condensed it down into what is known as Article 7. So for now, let's go down, and I'll just read sections 1 and 2. of Article 10. It reads, no new county shall be formed or established by the General Assembly which will reduce the county or counties or either of them from which it shall be taken to less contents than 400 square miles, nor shall any county be formed of less contents, nor shall any line thereof pass within less than 10 miles of any county seat of the county or counties proposed to be divided. No county shall be divided or have any part stricken therefrom without submitting the questions to a vote of the people. Page 39, please. People of the county, nor unless a majority of all the legal voters of the county voting on the question shall vote for the same. There shall be no territory stricken from any county unless a majority of the voters living in such territory shall petition for such division, and no territory shall be added to any county without the consent of the majority of the voters of any of the county to which it is proposed to be added, but the portion so stricken off and added to another county, or formed in whole or in part into a new county, shall be holden for and obliged to pay its proportion of the indebtedness of the county from which it has been taken. And so the subsequent sections of Article 10, which discusses county, goes into more discussion of how counties should be regulated. So if we're to make a conclusion about the 1870 Constitution of Illinois, we can make that conclusion based on the provisions of corporations and counties that incorporate in the state of Illinois during the period of 1870 to 1970. Could we go back to the slide presentation? And next. So now I wanted to look more closely at the Illinois State Constitution of 1970 to see what sort of revisions that were made to the 1870 regarding corporations and counties as it relates to incorporated, lawfully chartered and incorporated entities under the Illinois Provisional State. I wanted to see how did they change, if in fact they did, anything about Article 10 and 11, which I think of all the articles of 1870 are directly related to corporations that organize themselves or become lawfully chartered and organize themselves under the provisions of the state of Illinois. Next. So, sister, if you go to the notes section, and there's no notes section on this. I think there is a notes section on this. If you end the show, okay. So there we go. Could you grab that link and then paste it in a different tab? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is Illinois State Constitution for 1970. They do not have a table of contents. So prior to this presentation, what I did was identify the pages that we can go directly to. Alternatively, Sister Colonna, I sent you an email. If it's necessary, we could pull that up, but probably don't need to. Could we go back to the slide presentation so we can identify the page? Yeah. All right. And you may want to advance one slide. Okay, so you would go to page 16. So go back to the URL. And go to page 16. Right. Okay, and go down. Okay, brothers and sisters. So what I discovered is that in Article 7 of the 1970 Constitution, what the legislators did was they combined Article 10 and 11 of 1870 for corporations and counties, respectively, and then they labeled it local government. Not a state government, but local government. And it reads, municipalities means cities, villages, and incorporated towns. Units of local government means counties, municipalities, townships, special districts, and units designated as units of local government by, could we go to number 17? As identified by law, which exercise limited governmental powers or powers in respect to limited governmental subjects, but does not include school districts. And so the following sections of this particular article discusses how the counties and the boundaries are separated and how the county boards and the legislators are defined. Could we go back to the presentation and advance one slide? All right. So I wanted to study home rule because, again, a lot of Moors use interchangeably home rule and home office. So it reads, home rule in constitutional and statutory law, local self-government or the right thereof. In British politics, a program or plan, or more or less definitely formulated demand for the right of local self-government for Ireland under the lead of an Irish national parliament. So I got this screen image from, I believe, Black's Law Dictionary number 4. If you go up, Sister Colonna.
We're looking for Black's Law, which one it is.
Oh, no. Yeah, well, I retrieved this from Black's Law 4th edition. Could we go to the next screen, the next slide? All right, so because of the interest of time, I think we have like 15 minutes left. What I did was I retrieved this publication which discusses home rules for American cities. It was published in the city of Chicago by the American Municipal Association. Next. And in it, I grabbed these 2 pages. It describes the legislative objectives, the permit for local self-government, to give city adequate powers. So it's purely driven for local self-government, this designation of home office or home rule that we will quickly review in the Constitution of Illinois for 1970, which again compiled corporations and the county articles 11 and 10 of 1870. And the rebuttal by many Moors, particularly my older mentors, have been to me, well, the Prophet, he incorporated and he was grandfathered in. I don't know what the grandfather in is because they haven't been able to explain that, but if he, and we surely know that he did incorporate in the early 20th century, it had to have been under the legislation of the 1870 Constitution relative to corporations and counties, which was revised in the 1970 for local self-government under Article number 7. Next slide. Here's an image of the constitutional rules, the restrictions as it pertains to local self-government, whether it be according to Article 7, municipals, cities, towns, villages. It's all purely self-government. And again, I included this slide and the previous slide because they show the mindset, the popular mindset of the American Municipal Association as it relates to home rule. All right, next. All right, so now that I know that the Prophet has identified Moorish Temple of America as an organization, that it was incorporated according to the state provisions in 1926, and then in Cook County under the Religious Corporation Act of in 1928, and I've learned that the Constitution that regulated societies and corporations during the early 20th century was 1870, specifically refers to corporations and governments, and has since changed itself to identify in the 1970s as a local government. I wanted to look at Illinois Supreme Court cases that deals with home rule and local government. So this particular case is from 1972, 2 years after the 1970 Constitution was adopted, and it's between the city of Evanston and the county of Cook. Evanston is just north of Cook County. And so they had a dispute regarding home rule authority and, you know, who has jurisdiction, etc. Let's go to the next slide. And just to read an overview, it reads, the county and the municipalities separately impose taxes on retail sales of new motor vehicles. All parties were home rule local government. Again, they're identifying the county and the municipality as home rule local government. The municipalities contend that the county's tax ordinance conflicted with their ordinance pursuant to Illinois' Constitution, Article 7, Section 6C. So when you go to Article 7 of the 1970 Constitution of Illinois, go straight to Section 6. It has all the revisions from 1870 from the corporation and also the county level that regulates local self-government. So it reads continually, could not be enforced within the municipality's jurisdiction. The court, in affirming the judgment in the county's favor, held that the broad grant to home rule units of the power to tax in Illinois' Constitution, Article 7, Section 6A, gave the county the authority to impose the challenged tax. The court can found no conflict or inconsistency in the enforcement of separate tax ordinances. So here it's establishing jurisdiction over a county versus a city. In this case, it's Evanston, relative to taxation. And again, it's referring back to the Illinois State Constitution, 1970, Article 7, specifically Section 6. Next slide. And this is the same case, and HN means highlight notes. So the highlight notes are generally a condensed version of the annotated statements of judges, which are found at the very bottom of peer-reviewed law cases. And it reads, the grant of home rule power is found in the following language of Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, except as limited by this section. A home rule unit may exercise any power and perform any function permitting to its government and affairs, including but not limited to the power to regulate for the protection of public health, safety, morals, and welfare, the license to tax, to incur debt. The limitations on the home rule power to tax is found in the Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6. A home rule unit shall have only the power that the General Assembly may provide by law to license for revenue, impose taxes upon and measured by income or earnings upon occupation, and in Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, the General Assembly, by law approved by the vote 3/5 of the members elected to each house, may deny or limit the power to tax. So this case is discussing taxes, but it's referring to the litigants, in this case Evanston and Cook County, as home rule or local government according to the Illinois Constitution, both themselves being corporations. Next. And I should add before proceeding, I don't think that I can go to any of those corporations and they are issuing nationality cards and saying now that you have nationality, because within the provisional legislation of Article 7, Section 6 of Illinois State Constitution, it does not grant them that power to do that. So could you move down, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Could you move it down so I could show the litigants in this case? Or there's no... That's the top?
Down as it goes.
Oh, there we go. All right, so here again, it's Cook County versus contractors. So it's a local self-government versus a business corporation that is residing in this local self-government. Could you go up so I could read the overview? All right, stop right there. I'm just going to read through this really quickly. But the whole point, again, is that the Supreme Court of Illinois, when it's identifying home rule and local self-government, it's referring back to the provisions of the state of Illinois Constitution. And within those provisions are clear and concise, articulated restrictions on what local self-government is permitted and allowed to do. And so I just wanted to overview that. But Sister Kalona, could you take your cursor to maybe the overview section and maybe the 5th line from the bottom where it reads the court, if you go over to the right. Yeah, I'm going to start right there. The court determined that absent state regulation, home rule units could have exercise and perform any home rule powers, and the regulations of sanitary landfills within the home rule power under Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, 1970. The court decided that the landfill operator had to not only comply with the regulations of the board, but also had to comply with the zoning restrictions of the county. So it's the Supreme Court of Illinois is recognizing local self-government, is recognizing home rule authority, home rule power, so long as it doesn't exceed and go outside the parameters of the Constitution of Illinois, 1970, Article 7, Section 6. It's all defined. It's all restricted. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, and again, head notes, excerpts from the annotated deliberations or the comments of the judges. It reads, the Constitution provides that the powers and the functions of home rule units shall be construed liberally. Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, 1970, as to the state's relationship with home rule units. The state may exercise exclusively any power or function of a home rule unit except for taxing or certain taxing type powers. Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, H, 1970. However, Illinois Constitution, Article 7, Section 6, I, 1970, provides that home rule units may exercise and perform concurrently with the state any power or function of home rule units to the extent that the General Assembly by law does not specifically limit the concurrent exercise, specifically declare the state's exercise to be exclusive. Okay, I included this particular law case because it's showing you that the home rule units or local self-governments can exercise the power of the state as long as it's doing it concurrently with the state and its statutes and its articles. So, hypothetically, if I or any more go into a Moorish Temple of America and they say, okay, Mo, you filed this document, an affidavit, saying that you're Moorish American in a newspaper and now you have nationality. That is not concurrent with Illinois state legislation because it does not have provisions that affords that sort of power. No resident, to the best of my knowledge, can relocate from any other state in the union, go into Illinois state, and then file a affidavit in a newspaper proclaiming their nationality, because the Illinois state constitution doesn't allow that. I mean, and to think that it does is just beyond the boundaries of what's commonly practiced as law. Next. This is a different scale of municipality. This is, or local government. This is the city of Chicago versus an individual. And again, I used it to show you the many different nuances of local self-government and what's allowed. You can have a county that's a local self-government. You can have a city that's a local self-government. But in both cases, they have to align themselves with Article 7, Section 6 of local government per the Illinois Constitution. Anything outside of that, then you're not conforming to the very state legislation that you have incorporated under. All right, could you go up so we can read the overview section? So I just wanted to show this for the record that the city of Chicago had a dispute with an individual, okay, regarding ordinances and the exercise of police power. All right, next. And I'm going to read through these head notes. It reads in HN 4, the City of Chicago, by direct grant of power from the State of Illinois, has the right to make regulations in regard to the use of harbors, towing of vessels, opening and passing of bridges, the police power inherent in the state, the power under which everything necessary to the protection of the property of the citizens and the health and the comfort of the public may be done, controlling the use of tugboats and towing in and out of vessels to and from a harbor is in no sense in conflict with the power existing in the Congress of the United States to regulate commerce with foreign nations as among several states. That is very far from the attempt to regulate. This is very far from any attempt to regulate commerce. Could you go down, sister? Okay. HN 5 reads, a municipality can do nothing a state cannot authorize it to do, and all power and municipal corporations created by special or general laws may exercise emanates from the state creating it. This is a very powerful statement. I'm going to read HN 6 and then comment a little bit about HN 5. HN 6 reads, a state has all power necessary for the protection of the property, health, and comfort of the public. Its power, in this respect, a state may delegate to local municipalities and in such measure as may be deemed desirable for the best interest of the public, and the state may resume it again when deemed expedient. A state has the power to make all needful regulations to secure and promote the peace, health, comfort, and convenience of the people. So the judges in the Supreme Court, and there was maybe one dissent in this particular case, but the Supreme Court of Illinois is stating that the city of Chicago has this power, it's granted from the state under the provisions, and that it has the power as long as it's aligned with the state, but it can't do anything that the state doesn't authorize. And only the state itself, the state of Illinois, has the power to protect the property, the health and the comfort of the public. So it's pretty interesting. I wanted to share this because, you know, again, if you take Moorish Science Temple of America, if you go beyond the boundaries saying that, hey, file this paper in this court or file this document in this newspaper, you now have nationality, that is not aligned with the laws that I'm reading from Illinois Supreme Court cases. That actually conflicts with it. All right, next slide. And finally, I included this United States Supreme Court because I wanted everyone to know that when a corporation forms itself, whether a short title or not, the corporation itself is bound by its articles of incorporation and also by whatever powers is granted to it from the state provisional legislations that it incorporated under. All right, go down. So this was a dispute between the Oregonian Railroad Limited and another Oregonian, yeah, if you go up you can see those names. Yeah, another one. Yeah, there we go. So it was a dispute between the Oregonian Railway Company and a railway and navigation company that were providing services to the railway company, and the United States Supreme Court decided, and if you go to the next slide, you'll see what their highlighted notes said according to the judges. So the overview is there. I'm sure that if everyone wants a copy of this, you can just write Sister Colonna. She'll send it to you. Yeah, go to the next slide. Okay, so here in the headline notes 1, it reads, it may be considered as the established doctrine of the court. It's referring to the Supreme Court of the United States. In regard to powers of corporations, that there are such and such only as are conferred upon them by the acts of legislatures of the several states under which they are organized. A corporation in this country, whatever it may be, may have been in England at a time when the Crown exercised the right of creating such bodies, can only have existence under express law of the state or sovereignty by which it is created. Outside the powers conferred and the privilege granted to those organizations by the statutes under which they exist, they are in all the states of the Union, which, like Oregon, have the common law as the foundation of their jurisprudence. governed by that common law, and it is the established doctrine of this court, and with some exceptions of the states in which the common law prevails, as well as of Great Britain, from which are derived that such corporations, and I underscore this, Moors, can exercise no power or authority which is not granted to it by the charter under which it exists, or by some other act of legislature which granted the charter. Next. All right, so in summary, I looked at the Illinois State Constitution. I discovered that the 1870 was the Constitution under which Drew Ali incorporated at the state level and then subsequently at the county level. I looked at Illinois Supreme Court cases within Illinois determining what local government is based upon Article 7, Section 6 of the 1970 Constitution of Illinois. And based upon my examination of those things, I would say that body politic, according to the 805 ILCS, constitutes local government, and so therefore I have to reject my original hypothesis, which says that Moorish Temple of America is a state government or a national government per Illinois state constitutional legislation. And I have to accept my null hypothesis, which says that Moorish Temple of America is not a state government or a national government per Illinois state constitutional legislation. Next. And so it's important moving forward that all of us, all the Moorish Americans, begin to realize this and educate each other and educate themselves about truly what the Moorish Science Temple of America is intended for, and that there remains much more work to be carried out relative to our nationality. And in that regard, they'll understand that, number one, Moorish Science Temple of America is an organization. It's, according to the Illinois State Constitution legislation, incorporated under local self-government, not state government. And by doing that, they'll realize that they need a state. And in needing a state, that they, Moorish Science Temple of America, and that state government will work harmoniously together, and that they will comply, all of us will comply with Act 5, which reads, the organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and the Constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. And so I know that we Moorish Americans that understand that we need a state government are in a very unique area in this beginning stages, because we have the ability to construct laws to protect ourselves, our posterity, our property, and also to work harmoniously with Moorish Science Temple of America and its members, recognizing them as a local government, and they recognizing their autonomy, as long as their autonomy doesn't conflict with the laws and the constitutional provisions of their state government. Next. And so I leave Moors with this. We are to honor all true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. And so as of lately, for the past year, what I've been doing is reading a lot of text of the Far East. And one text that really grabbed my attention as it relates to when I first learned about the necessity of a state, and I highlighted those areas. And it reads, and this is a guru speaking to one of his disciples, and he's stating, progress means elimination and acceptance, and our spiritual life must always be a dynamic thing, otherwise we shall be dead. Progress means acceptance and elimination. The scientists also say that They also say this is in their theory of natural selection, survival of the fittest. Nature is selecting some and eliminating others. Life is dynamic. We are living in a dynamic world. Everywhere we find acceptance and elimination. That is progress. And in our life must be progressive, not static. And so as we unfold, as we emerge into higher comprehension of both divine and national laws, and we learn that we need a state, that should be a revelation for our new acceptance and eliminate all of our old thoughts, or most of them, that attempts to use a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization beyond the boundaries of its intended purpose per our benefactor and his instruction and his wishes. Next. And this statement that I found in the Far East book is also substantiated in our Holy Quran in chapter 10, number 16, where it reads, a man's ideal is his God, and so as man unfolds, his God unfolds. Man God today, tomorrow is not his God. So we know that Allah is the highest self in man, and Allah is truth. So whatever truth you knew yesterday, when you have uncovered new truths or higher comprehension of truth that removes the ambiguity and the haze of uncertainty, and is substantiated in law, that's the new truth. That is the new truth that you should take forward, and that truth should serve to provide you with more insight on how you unfold as an individual, how you interact with the divine and the national side of this movement, so that the movement doesn't remain static, so that 86 years from now, as it was 86 years from 1928, Moors are still utilizing the Moorish Science Temple of America beyond its parameters nonsensically for things that it's not intended and constructed to do. Next. And so with that regard, I close out. I have to acknowledge Noble Drew Ali. I have to acknowledge Moorish Science Temple of America, because without their doors being open, I wouldn't have learned to step onto the path and move along this path of unfoldment to learn about myself. I have to recognize Brother C. Cannon Bay, who was invited to an ADAP meeting about a year ago today. And of all the ADAPs on the call, I was the only one that listened to him and followed up with him the next day. The next day when we spoke, he said, hey, research nationality theory. And I researched nationality theory, and it was so plain to me that I cannot take nationality upon myself. I cannot file an affidavit in a newspaper and say that I have nationality. Nationality is a legal bond between a state government and an individual that binds them together in mutually exclusive duties and service to each other. And that is only done through conferment. And in addition, of course, I have to recognize United States of America Republic and any individual that I've spoken to, namely Kelowna, namely Ross Woody Bay, most recently Isvara, most recently Brother Umar. If I've spoken to you and you've taught me something, I'm deeply grateful to you for that purpose. And I'm deeply grateful to you for having that attentive ear to listen to me and listen to the information that I've uncovered to share with you all. Next slide. Oh, before you go, there's one thing I want to say. Moors, we have the capability to reconstruct our government, and the possibilities are vast and infinite. And so just think about the universe and how vast it is. It's incomprehensible. That's the sort of task that we're faced with. And it takes all of us to do it, and that's part of our civic responsibility. It's not the Europeans. It's not another Asiatic nations. It's our responsibility. So we have infinite possibilities, but it's our responsibility to pursue those possibilities and work harmoniously together to achieve those. Next. And so with that, I'd like to open the floor for any contributions, comments, or questions. Islam.
Islam. Okay, well done, Brother Charles Bay. Let me go ahead and unmute everyone, and I'd like to personally applaud you for what you've put together here. Let me just go ahead and...
Thank you.
Islam. So is there anyone who would like to make a comment or ask a question from the presentation that was just given?
Islam.
Islam, Brother Anthony, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sister Islam. I have a comment. That was a great presentation, brilliant, extremely informative, and I appreciate it. And I downloaded some of the materials that you put forth on the screen. Brother Attorney General, thank you very much. I yield the floor.
You're welcome.
Islam. And we can stop misusing the home rule quote just by saying home rule or home office. And now we have an understanding of what it means. Let me see if I can mute some of the noise that's going on in the background. All righty.
Islam, this is Nanana. I have a question.
Islam, Sister Nanana, you have the floor.
Thank you. The question that I have is concerning the last statement concerning nationality, that it's a bond between a state government and an individual, and that nationality is conveyed, not proclaimed. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly? And
it's conferred from the state, yes. But every state, according to its protocol, determines how that nationality is conveyed. So essentially all the states meet at various regional or international assemblies, and they determined it, and then those states return to their respective territories and construct statutes and public laws that is aligned with the International Assembly's agreement.
All right. Thank you for that further explanation. And the reason I brought that up is because I do feel that just that terminology adds a lot of clarity because there are so many Moors who are under the misimpression that nationality is proclaimed and that they can, in fact, proclaim their nationality, meaning that they can, that they can proclaim the nationality themselves, and that it is not something that is conveyed or conferred by a state. So just the use of those terms, I think the clarity around those terms provides a lot of insight and information. Thank you, and I yield the floor.
Yes, Islam, sister. If you have the divine warning by the Prophet for the nations, perhaps like the fourth paragraph down, maybe the second sentence in that paragraph, it reads, if Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. So it just really depends on the comprehension level of the Moorish American. Do they understand what it means to proclaim? Have they followed Drew Ali's instructions to do so properly?
Islam. This President Cannon Bay. See, we are to proclaim our nationality as Moorish American people. And the problem is what a lot of Moors don't get is that's not an individual proclaiming. It's us proclaiming it as a nation of people, that we are a nation of people. That's proclaiming your free national name. It's us as a whole, what do you say? We one family bearing one free national name. It's us proclaiming the name of our family. And the name of our free national name is not Ilha Bay. Our free national name is Moorish American. So we've done just that. When we established our charter, that was a proclaiming as a nation of who we were as Moorish Americans. See, people get it mixed up thinking that the prophet, they always say, yeah, the prophet said, he bought us everything to take save a nation, take and save yourself. We supposed to take what he bought and save ourselves because this and this and that, right? But they not understanding. He wasn't talking to us on an individual level. Everything he did was for us as a nation. So it ain't no saving me without saving you. Ain't no saving yourself without saving me. It don't work that way. We have to save us as a nation. And so the proclaiming of us being a nation is what he was talking about. And that's proclaiming it to the United States government. Like he said, all these people have to proclaim. Listen to what he said. He didn't say, I'm Steve Jones, I'm an Italian, my name is Wong Cho, I'm Chinese. That ain't what he said. He said if the Chinese, the Turks, the Italians, he named them what? Free national names. Not individual people names, free national names. You must proclaim your free national name before the government of the United States. When we got our charter, that was a proclaiming that we are Moorish American people. It's in our Constitution, saying we Moorish American people. That's a proclaiming of us as a nation. Islam, I guess.
Islam, thank you so much for that additional clarity.
Islam,
Islam Leslie, asking Leo, you have the floor.
Yeah, I got two questions. One, based on what we just went over, it stated that the Moorish Science Temple is a civic organization, but nothing in there that says the Moorish Science Temple is a theocratic government. So where did that come from? Because I hear a lot of Moors say it's a theocratic government, but there's nothing in the corporation statutes that states that. And the second thing is, based on what we just went over, how was it I was able to file a legal notice in the county stating I was a Moorish American and it gets through without getting rebutted then? If that's the way the law is stated, it should have never went through. Am I correct?
Point answer, Kevin Bay. You're incorrect, 100% incorrect. All you did was make an assumption. That's all you did. When you filed the affidavit in the county, that ain't nothing but an assumption. They don't have to rebut no assumption that you make that you're a Moorish American. They don't have to do it. You know why? Because the law is saying that you're not one. So it ain't no need for them to argue with you about no affidavit that you done created. You can say anything you want to say in your affidavit. They're not obligated to answer that. They're not obligated to ask. And see, a lot of Moors get affidavits and stuff mixed up. They think just because they make an affidavit that the state is obligated to answer it. The only way the state is obligated to answer something is if you have them in court. That's the only way you're going to obligate them to answer anything. And the only person that can bind the state into any contract is the governor or the state's attorney. You're the only people that can bind the state into contracts. So we got to get the right understanding. You know, doing an affidavit is simply doing a declaration of one's nationality and descent, saying what they are. And I put a case up, and you can watch the video on that again so that you get clarity. That Rion versus Minneapolis case, they're telling you flat out a declaration of nationality does not suffice. It does not suffice. It also is telling you that the individual cannot just change their nationality at will. It don't work that way. Nationality is conferred by a state. When it comes down to individual, each one of us being Moorish Americans, individually, on an individual level, are trying to seek our nationality, we must seek out the state. There's no way around it. The state confers the nationality. It is a joining and a meeting of the minds between the person or the citizen seeking to have citizenship and nationality and the state conferring it. We have read this in the law millions of times. It's out there. It's on video. We put it out there. So any more that's consistent trying to see, I'm gonna tell you what it is. This, and I'm gonna keep it real. This is what it is. This is what I say it is. It's called peer pressure. And a lot of Moors that's in these temples, they feel a part of something. Okay? And they scared to speak up against the sheik in their temple. They scared to go against the rest of the people in the temple because they feel they're going to be cast out of the temple and they're going to be looked at like an outcast. This is the same thing going on in the Christian churches right now. You got people that's in the Christian churches that's waking up and they go to talk to other people in the church and they get to talk about they possessed and the devil in them and they kick them out the church and it's the same thing. So we got to be strong enough. We have to be strong enough, and we always got to pay attention to what Noble Drew Ali said in his whole statement, because he prophesied. He said our people won't do nothing but at the point of a sword. A brother sent me a law that Louisiana passed today. They made it a hate crime if you resist arrest from the police. I already know what's going to happen. I already know. If Donald Trump going to get majority of the power back to the state, guess what? That's good because we're a state. But it's bad for African Americans and Negroes and black people. It's bad for them because the state, just like before, the state wasn't upholding no rights of ours being a people here because we're not true citizens under their state. They didn't have to. This is the whole reason why the federal government ended up creating the 14th Amendment. Because the states was running us over. Even though we had the right to vote, they still wasn't allowing us to vote in the state. So we got to get the right understanding. We got our own state now. And just like the prophet said, you can cast a free national ballot. He didn't listen to what he said. He didn't say no local ballot. He said a free national ballot. Because we are the national government. So again, showing you this is not about home rule authority and Chicago becoming the new Mecca. We got to get an understanding. The reason Chicago will be the new Mecca, it had home rule authority. But guess what? That theocratic government that you talking about, bro, is going to be in the city of Chicago, and it operates just like how the archdiocese.
I think, Canabay, did you drop?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you dropped from the call.
Oh.
Too bad. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to our presenter. Charles Bay, did you want to comment on any of what was just said?
Yeah, well, regarding Atkinsell's second question, just contributing, they're municipalities, brother, and they'll take your money. But it doesn't actually mean that whatever you filed is certainty. You can go into Cook County's website and you can find hundreds of filed documents under the classification of non-compliant.
Oh, okay.
Hundreds of them, and many of them are Moorish Americans filing documents that are non-compliant with the regulations of that particular local government or statutes. With regard to your first question, who knows where that originated more? It could have originated with a Moor that has a lofty mindset about what Moorish Science Temple of America is, unknowing to the fact of the laws that regulate its existence. And so, yeah, I mean, they can call it what it is, but it's not necessarily what lawfully is regarded according to Illinois State Constitution. You can call it whatever it is. Islam.
Islam. Point of interest, just kind of I'm back. I got kicked out. Hey, Kelowna, could you go to our website, the United States American Republic.us? Because I'm going to hit some in on this theocratic government. Let me make something clear to everybody on this phone. Kelowna, you there? Yeah.
I am. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Yeah,
okay.
I think a lot of more say that, and I'm like, I have not seen anything that states that. So I like to know where did that come from?
Because they don't have no overstanding, man. And this is what I be trying to get brothers to overstand. They run around saying things, but they don't actually know what they saying or have overstanding of what they even talking about. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to show you right now.
Which section did you want me to go to, Canada?
I can't even see. Can you share your screen again? I'm still on contributions, comments, and questions.
Okay. I need to share everything. Here we go.
Go to biblical. Go to the biblical. A theocratic government is a government that's led by God. But let me show you something. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll down, Kelowna.
Someone with a point of interest, can you see the screen? Is that an issue?
Yeah, I can see it, but I do have a point of interest.
Go ahead. You got the floor.
Hey, President Kennedy, is there a document that you can provide to us that we can share with other Moors that would say that the only way they gain their nationality is through a state? Now, you referred me to a book that was in the law library that was, sent out to me when I was new, and in that book, it explained it clearly to me. But I wanted to know from you, is there like a case law or something short that we could share with these Moors and say, look, what you're doing is not right, and why it's not right? Because here, under international law, under this particular law, it says the only way you can get nationality is if it's conferred upon you by a state. Something that we could show, something that's simple, even if it's like 2 or 3 pages, anything like that that you can get out to us.
It's not mobile. I feel what you're saying, but you got to understand. You saying give you some type of paper with it written. Now we got videos and everything showing it. Some of these people just ain't gonna wake up because they are more into the rhetoric than actually following the lessons of the prophet. When the prophet tells you to exercise your 5 senses, man, that means man think. And when you clearly say, look, if I only started you thinking again, and then the man is sitting up telling you, look, some Moors are going to come in with their eyes wide open. They're going to take all these old Moors and sit them in the back seat. And you still want to follow the old Moors? Then you ain't paying attention to your prophet. You're not paying attention to what he's saying. He's telling you can't put old, new wine in old bags. That don't work. What we telling these older Moors that's been in the Moortown circle forever, they can't comprehend what we're talking about. They still slaves. They still slaves. They're just slaves that know about nationality. They don't know about true freedom. They don't know what it actually means to come under the constitutional fold of the government. They think it's coming under the constitutional fold of a free national government is coming under the divine constitution. And the divine constitution is not a national constitution. And they will say it is because they're able to open up a wartime civil America nationwide. That don't make it a national constitution, and that's why it don't say national constitution on it. It says divine constitution. So this theocratic government, scroll back up, Kelowna. I'm looking. It's a quote out of the Bible where it's telling you that God is saying that it's no government here on earth that has power and authority unless it comes from God. All governments, whether they know it or not, are theocratic governments. All of them. There's not one government that's not a theocratic government. All governments derive their power and authority from God. You read it in their state constitutions. They ask them for blessings. They say them with profound reverence for the supreme creator of the universe, for the supreme, for the almighty God. You know, they ask them for blessings. All governments are theocratic governments. All governments are led by God. All of them. Our people don't get it. A theocratic government, yeah. Everything is led by God, including the Moorish people of America, including the Catholic Church, and so on and so on and so on. Ain't nothing taking place without God's blessing or authority for it to happen. What we're doing right now is the United States of American Republic is a theocratic government. It's led by God. It's led by God. When we act and put our foot on our lower self and elevate back to our higher self, our thought, then we become that one with our Creator. This is Islamism. This is what we're trying to teach us. We become that one with our Creator. Who is God? God is the one that do what? God is the one that say what the law is. Jesus means justice. God is the one that say what the law is. Ain't we as a nation of people again writing and creating our own laws and saying what the law is? God's the one that gave the law. So each one of us, every time we vote and pass these laws, we are acting in our God's capacity. Then the law gives us. But a theocratic government is any government where the people under that government acknowledges God as being their head. Even before the state. So that's what a theocratic government is. And is this the quote? Yeah. Whoever will not observe the law of your God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed upon him, strictly, whether for death or for banishment, for confiscation of goods or for imprisonment. This is why we have a divine and national movement. You must obey the laws of God, and you must obey the laws of the state. When the Bible speaks of the king, it's referring to the state. You got to obey the laws of both. That's why it's a divine national movement. I've said this 9 times. Read the story of Daniel. The king was going to let Daniel, the governor, over all of the kingdom. And the other governors in the kingdom, they try to find fault in the man. They try to find if he would take a bribe, if he would do anything out of law on the state side. And they said they couldn't find no fault in him. As soon as they said they couldn't find no fault in him, one of them said what? He said, well, if he don't obey his God laws, we can get him. If he don't obey the laws of his God, we can get him. It's two sides to this coin. I don't know how people in Moorish science that they even study Moorish science and they don't understand that it must be a balance. It's always a yin and a yang to everything. How can you even say that you know Moorish science if you keep on operating with one side of what the prophet wrote? You're not completing the scale. It's unbalanced. So we got to really get the right understanding, and I'm gonna give the floor with that, and I'm gonna keep looking for this part where it's telling you that ain't no government in power or authority unless their power and authority come from God. Islam, I give the floor. Scroll up some because I'm. Islam, I give the floor for anybody that wants the floor. That's not it. Go there.
Well.
Islam, Brother Leslie, I can you yield. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You know what? I'm I'm going to try to pull it up in my folder, Kelowna, and then you can just make me the presenter, and I'll show it to y'all. Let me try to find it.
Because I don't think it's on our page, the one you're thinking about most. Okay, Charles Bay, you have the floor.
Islam more. Well, if there are no more questions, thanks for giving me the opportunity to present. Hopefully I'll do like a follow-up, look more closely at the state side and nationality and confirm it.
Islam. And thank you.
And I want to say this. That was a wonderful presentation that you did. And, man, I mean, it is, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And I'm going to say this to everybody. Everybody has to send me the thing so I can be the presenter to them. Everybody that's in our government, and everybody, even if you're not in the government, even if you ain't in the Moorish Temple of America, man, if you run across something that sounds like truth to you, man, speak up, bring it to the floor. So that's the only way we're going to keep progressing. We have to keep, when we find stuff and our spirit tells us that that's truth about something, we got to bring it to the floor. Okay, I'm going to show y'all this right here. It's Romans 13 for those that want to know, Romans 13. And it says, submission to the governing authority. Let everyone be subject to the governing authority, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. My screen jumped. Hold on. But for those that do wrong. Oh, man. Okay. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid. For rulers do not hold. Lost my spot again. Hold on. And you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid. For rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath, to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes. For the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Love fulfills the law. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other command there may be are summed up in this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. So I just want to say something right quick to y'all about this here. This Bible verse is very important, especially to those of us that's in our government. You really got to understand. You're sitting in a seat in government. And he's telling you that the people that sit in seats in government are sitting in place for God. It does work for God. Because God people is those that are good people. Okay? And so they sitting in these seats. And this is why I'm telling you, I don't know why that phone echoing like that. But this is why it's telling you that, you know, it's saying they work, look what it say right here. They say they're full-time to governing. They get a full-time to governing. See? These people, God fathers get a full-time to governing. So when you driving around and BSing around, you know, not really doing nothing, sitting around watching a football game, when you should really be trying to learn how to run your government, keep this in mind. When you're sitting around watching basketball and all that good stuff, that ain't going to do nothing for your people. God people work full time to govern, to look out for his people, to get their business affairs in order, to do what needs to be done. So I just wanted to show y'all that. So just from this Bible scripture, it's letting you know, man, it ain't nobody in charge. There's no seat of power or authority on this earth unless they got it from God. Islam, like you.
Islam. Anyone else have any comments or questions before we take our call tonight?
Islam.
Is that Brother Ross?
Yes, it is. First of all, I want to thank the President for that explanation. And I want to tip my feds off to my brother, Attorney General Kevin Charles Bay. That was an excellent presentation. I hope and pray through Allah that our brothers and sisters in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will get an understanding of the differences between state, conferred state, nationality, all of that was taught within your lesson that you just put out. I thought it was excellent. I thought you brought the information out at a decent flow, and I hope it connects with our brothers' spirits and their minds, and I hope and pray that they go and compare notes. I hope they come out of the stupor that they're in, that a state government has to exist in order for you to be able to confer nationality. It has to exist. There's no way around it. That law, that state, those laws that you mentioned in your presentation are right there right now. They're not going anywhere. The explanation you gave is right there. They can go locally and look it up. And now that you have this information that's being put out by this lecture that you gave, it's going to be there for them to go back and reference. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I want to commend you again. Excellent. For your flow and your presentation. I would encourage all other Moors that are on the line and those that are listening that are not a part of the government. This is the type of precedents that we want to set when we're delivering our presentations. We want to come prepared because we don't want everybody to think we're fumbling through everything. I've done that a couple of times. And as I listen to my brother Kevin, Brother Bay talk, the Attorney General talk, I know I'm learning. So all of us are going to fumble, but you know what? We're all going to get better as time goes on. So I want to still, again, commend you, brother. That was excellent. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Moore.
Yes, it was. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we'll all be able to see this in the recording. Thank goodness that we can have that recording sent to us once we download it. I definitely enjoyed this because I've always had a issue with regards to the home rule. And when people spring it on you, you know, you don't have a real opinion because you don't really know. At least I didn't. So I appreciate you going into the detail, especially finding out specifically that it was the 1870 Constitution that he was going by. Had to be. And then the other constitutions, I knew the 1818 existed, but I didn't know about the others. So that was some really in-depth research that was well received by especially me, myself, who was born and raised in Chicago and or Illinois. And so thank you very much for that. It's a lot of information that you went through.
You're welcome.
For other, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up for tonight. And so we appreciate everyone coming on into this call, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the evening, and may Allah always be with you. And we're going to go ahead and end this call at 7:48 p.m. Central Standard Time.
When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. So we've come to cash this check, a check